So thank you everybody for coming. We're probably going to do a meeting next month as well. June 5th, Friday the 5th of June. That had not been on our calendar. We're going to see if we can come up with a program, and we can hope you can join us for that one. We will keep you posted on that. So with that, I guess I'm going to get started with my presentation. All right, so some of you know that I just retired recently. I've been retired for the last 3 weeks. The last couple of, the last couple of weeks of working, I was working out of my house here, working out of the basement. And now I'm still doing the retirement thing out of the basement. So absolutely nothing has changed. One of the things that Janet and I were looking so much forward to doing and was to do a little traveling. And so we wanted to go for, Jerry has the hat, the Route 66 hat. We were going to go for a ride on Route 66 from Chicago to LA. So we bought a whole bunch of guidebooks to tell us, you know, some of the things that that happen along Route 66. And so, you know, it's a neat slice of Americana, all that way from Chicago to Los Angeles. We've got any number of really cool books, but I think you'll find the one that is the coolest of them all is this one here called Route 66 Railway. L. Ron Lawrence, why don't you just unmute yourself here and take a bow? You are the author of this book.
Dear God. Oh, dear God. You're too kind. Thank you.
So, what Elle has here, well, you'll see right here on the cover, one of these iconic Route 66 emblems that's painted on the pavement. My presentation here kind of looks a lot at some of the trains, but we don't really get into the Route 66 stuff at all. So I can heartily recommend this as the antidote to what I'm going to show you next. Thanks, Elle, again for being here tonight. I'm so delighted that you're here. So give me 1 second here, and I will share my screen. I should also point out that Bob and I, when we did our run through last night, Bob and I noticed that we did our presentations in the exact same format. So, you know, the same theme using Keynote on our Macintoshes. And so I don't have a lot of the titles and stuff that Bob had in his. But we laughed a lot. So what I did do is I changed the color of the title there. Bob, I think, was using blue, so I changed mine to a red. So BNSF in California and Arizona. So we'll start off here right at the top of Cajon Pass. Most of the photos here in this presentation were taken in January of this year. And had a business trip in San Diego, had a couple of vacation days. You know, the guy who's getting ready to retire has to use up his vacation days before they get lost. So so I spent a little time out there in Cajon. And here is the train from San Diego to Barstow, climbing, just cresting the hill at Summit. And there's this neat little overlook that you can just drive up to that I happened to catch this Union Pacific. Union Pacific runs on trackage rights through Cajon Pass. They have forever between what is it, Colton or whatever, and all the way up to Barstow. So this is what train is this? This is the West Colton to Ogden train with about 7 different SD70s of various vintages, which is kind of a neat shot. Then I ran over to Hill 582, which is another iconic location right in the thick of it all. for this BNSF runs intermodal trains. They run them out the ass, basically. And every time you turn around, there's another one. So, and here's another one climbing the hill. This one, I forget where this one, what train this was, but the mountains and the stuff in the background, it was just, everything was beautiful that morning. I got there relatively early to get these shots. So not only was, so you see the track right behind the locomotive. That's the former Southern Pacific Palmdale Cutoff, built in the 1960s. What was it, 1967 or so? So very, very late in the stage of railroad construction. That is now an active Union Pacific route. It's the Mojave subdivision. So as this BNSF train was going up the hill, sure enough, here comes a West Colton bound freight train, Portland to West Colton train coming down the hill. Just, you can see a lot of trains there. You can see them one at a time, or you can see them in multiples. So these shots were taken from the really neat location known as Hill 582, where some people have just kind of done a little caretaking of a little impromptu little park, and it's like an oasis. It's just a beautiful place. It's difficult to get to. I would recommend using either a four-wheel drive car or a rental car to get there. So here is the Los Angeles to Willow Springs UPS train climbing the hill at Cajon Pass. Again, also taken from Hill 582. It's just a gorgeous day. Love it out there. Absolutely love it. And as he was climbing up the hill, well, North Platte to West Colton train coming down the hill, another UP train. Actually got a couple of shots of him. Just absolutely gorgeous. Trains out the ass, basically. Here's another meet of a couple of trains. The one on the right-hand side going down the hill is a local train. That's one of the California locals. And the one going up the hill is just another a hot intermodal, the LA to New York City train on BNSF. So I'm going to turn the clock back here for a couple of a little bit of older shots. This next one, great. So you see, you got trains coming opposite one another. Well, sometimes you have them passing one another as well. Two trains climbing the hill. Actually, the UP train actually won. It overtook the BNSF train. That's Hill 582 in the slight distance back there. This particular time was October of 2013 when I was out there with Steve Sweeney from my office. And Steve, it was very helpful for him. He took a couple of pictures of me. Like, there I am. I'm standing on that little hill. The best way to get to it is either in a four-wheel drive or a rental car. And we're in our element up there. Just a fantastic place. And as you can see, absolutely stellar, very perfect weather. So another thing that we did was we went for a little ride, back and forth on Route 138, which is it's been straightened out since then, which takes all the fun out of it, if you ask me. But Steve Sweeney was my passenger, and Cajon kind of brings out the Mario Andretti in me. I'm driving a rental car, so it's not like it's a sports car or anything. And this road is like the stereotypical California byway. Hills, blind corners, hairpin turns, sheer cliffs. The only thing is there's no ocean down at the bottom of any of these sheer cliffs, so you're not going to come to your untimely death by drowning on this. But it's a fun road. But I think I I don't know, I might have made Steve a little seasick, because he just supplied me with these photos tonight that he took from the passenger side of the car. And it's just, yeah, we were actually driving this road. We're going forward, and it's hard to tell. But unfortunately, California Department of Transportation did straighten that out, and it's just not the same anymore. ETTS, as they say. Let's go back a few years. Let's go back to 1992. I've made several trips to Cajon Pass over the years. Here's, I think, my second trip with a Santa Fe westbound intermodal. Boy, those were the glory days. On my very, very first trip a year earlier, and actually it was April 30th of 1991, so just about 29 years ago from yesterday, was this shot of a GP60 led train coming around the curve there on the steep track down the hill, just with a brilliant locomotive leading. Again, back in 2013, let's go down a little bit down the hill to see a few trains down there. This is getting closer to Keenbrook. We're not quite there. I think these rocks and stuff that you see in the left corner of the picture, lower left corner, I think they are some retaining wall type of thing for like a parking area of Route 66, if I'm not mistaken. I might be mistaken, because I often am. A year or so later, this one was in April of 2014, two UP trains climbing. The one on the bottom, of course, trackage rights going east to Daggett and off onto its own railroad. The one on the top going up to Palmdale. Just amazing. Trains everywhere. And then one more shot that I took back in January of this train by Swarthout Canyon Road. What train was this? This is the Los Angeles to the Logistics Park in Kansas City train with 5 big GEs just climbing up the hill. Well, at that point, I had spent most of the morning up there in absolutely gorgeous sun, with great weather, and frankly, I was getting a little hungry. So I had a thought in mind. I knew exactly where I was going to go, because over Christmas time, Janet and I, we were watching Diners, Drive-Ins, and Dives with Guy Fieri, and he did a segment at a diner in Victorville. So Emma Jean's. I went to Emma Jean's. As you can see, it was just about lunchtime. What's wrong with that clock? It actually goes backwards. It was kind of neat. And I got to tell you, here is the burger that I had. Man, oh man, that was a special burger. You can just see all the calories just absolutely clogging up all the arteries right there. Onion rings, bacon, barbecue sauce, mayo, and fries. Oh man, it doesn't get much better than that. But anyway, back in the car, and I started heading east again. And here's another UP train heading east on the BNSF. I'm sorry, heading west. And so with the help of Bob Gallegos a few years ago, he kind of gave me some pointers on where to go up on the UP, the former Los Angeles and Salt Lake line that goes up through Afton Canyon. I thought, I'm going to try to get up there today. I'm going to run up to Kelso and see if I can see a train on the LA and Salt Lake. And which was like a really boneheaded move, because I didn't see any trains at all. So I'm going to turn back the dial here, go back to 2014 when I did get to Kelso. And this is just a little oasis in the middle of the most inhospitable desert you can imagine. Look at all this greenery. It looks like you're in not New England, but it looks like you're in a verdant area with lots of water. It's far from the case. But this former division office for the Union Pacific is now a National Park Service building. They did an awesome restoration of it, as you can see. This particular day, when I was out there, that was April 2014. This is the day before they dragged the big boy from Southern California on its way to Cheyenne. And I think what they were doing, or what it appeared to be doing, was they were running trains left and right. They were trying to get everything out of the way so they wouldn't slow this big boy down. I think I saw 7 or 8 trains that day, including this one here at the top of Sema Hill. And oh man, this is just, this has everything for me. It's just wide open spaces, not any sign of civilization. It's just prehistoric. And you got all these volcanoes around too. It's neat. These two second and third unit, these C40s are dead in tow, but the other units are bringing the train up at 13 miles an hour all the way from Kelso up here to Sema Hill. But anyway, my last trip out there in January, UP wasn't running anything. It was just an utter disgrace that I got out there and they weren't doing a darn thing. But I did manage to get a picture of the Ivanpah electric solar generating station here. I'm actually 17 and a half miles away from these solar generating units. As you can see, there are these tiny, well, they're not that tiny. They're these mirrors that are on the ground that point up to these receptors, these 3 towers that have these receptors on them, and they're boilers basically. And the heliostats are computer controlled. They follow the sun, so there's always a beam of sunlight right on these boilers. And I think what they must have done on that far one, they must have just, it was getting late in the day. What they had done, they must have just turned the heliostats to cool off that far one, because a few seconds before that it was just as bright as the other 2 boilers. But it's really kind of a neat place. You can see this for miles and miles and miles around. That's Interstate 15 that runs through between us and it. Probably about 10, 12 miles away. But as I say, that's 17 miles. A photo taken with a 600 millimeter lens, handheld, by the way. So what I would have done, what I should have done, was continued along the BNSF to places like Ludlow and Siberia and Baghdad and places like that. But luckily I had done that a couple times in the past. So here is the Katie's turn. Comes out of Barstow, goes down to Katie's, and switches interchange with the short line down there. And as you can see, a nicely, freshly painted GP60M leading. This is coming down Ash Hill. This is Katie's on I think another trip. Again, they run these intermodals. You don't have to wait very long. This is a westbound intermodal going through Katie's. Getting closer to Essex, I think, on this one. This highway that you see in the background there, with the speed limit 55, that is actually Route 66. So nice, westbound international container train. And here we are cresting the hill at Goffs with I think, what are we in? Are we I'm losing track. Are we a westbound or? Yeah, this is a westbound train cresting the hill at Goffs. As you see that little doodad down on the tracks just ahead of the pilot of the engine, that's an automatic train stop inductor that is still in use that allows passenger trains 79 miles an hour on this trackage. Kind of a neat place. A little bit further east, getting closer to Needles on later in the day with another hot intermodal train. And now I should have taken this shot on the other side of the bridge because it says Santa Fe a little bit more clearer. But unfortunately, I was on this side of the train, this side of the bridge when the train came. I didn't have time to get over there. So sorry about that, folks. However, I did get this westbound crossing over the Colorado River at Topak, Arizona, we're crossing from Arizona into California in this picture. So this is the kind of sort of the low point, and it's all uphill from here, basically. So this train, you know, another flying intermodal on its way to Needles. And so there's a big climb coming out of the Colorado Valley, and here we are closer to, I think it's Franconia, just with these wonderful vistas out there. Here's another shot closer to Yucca. Again, really accentuating the grade that these trains have to fight against to get over the road. Fantastic, fantastic, fantastic. So back to the current trip. This is back in January. So I ended up going to Kingman. I overnighted in Kingman, got up early, got into the canyon for this. What are we? Are we in eastbound? I think we're in eastbound on this one. I lose track of which direction they are. But yeah, just a train climbing up out of the valley. Around these hills and mountains and stuff. This here's one of my favorite shots. Just this little hole in the rocks where you can see the. If you've seen the movie Cars, you know they got the geography and the geology just absolutely right. This is so typical Kingman. Very, very unique, neat shot there. And a westbound train. Finally got us a westbound train that morning as well. Now, Dan Grudzlanek helped me out with a little information on this train, the one coming at us with the 6886. This is a Fremont, Nebraska to Southern California port train. Excuse me. And many of those containers contain grain, which is all collected in Fremont, Nebraska, and shipped out to overseas markets in containers. Who knew they did that? Well, Dan did, obviously, and he told me. And look at this, a train on the upper track going east. The one on the top is a Barstow to Lubbock train that has some units for storage in it as well. So we caught up to that train a little bit further east around Hackberry, and then we saw it again at Valentine with this just gorgeous, beautiful cactus, native Arizona vegetation just sitting there. So sort of taken from that same perch, looking the other direction on another trip, was this train coming out of Crozier Canyon. So you can see why I want to keep going back, and that's why I want to go back to Route 66, because it's just unmistakable vistas that are just absolutely stunning. This is, you know, I'm not exactly sure where the crest is, but where are we, Yavapai or Yampai or something like that? Somebody will know. But they run trains like streetcars out there, heading east towards Seligman. So this is kind of downgrade from here. This is a train going upgrade from Seligman. Seligman, kind of around that bend down at the bottom there. We're a couple miles out of Seligman, but you see the heat waves coming out of those 4 units, really hauling this train up the hill. Route 66 crosses over the BNSF right around Crookton, and just an awesome super elevation curve here. This was from my first trip a couple years ago. Just the light was, everything was perfect. So this last trip, I didn't have such great weather, but you know, here's an eastbound getting held up at Crookton for a signal. They're doing some track work, so they do a lot of track work. They do a lot of maintenance. They keep their railroad in tip-top shape, but that means a lot of lanes are closed. So this guy was crawling, and so to let this other one go. Look at all this JB Hunt on both of these trains. Just utterly amazing. But by then, as you can see, it's getting kind of cloudy, and before too long, it started snowing. And it was icky. It was really icky. This is Crookton, where the Crookton line change took place. They eliminated multiple, many degrees of curvature, smoothed out the railroad a lot back in 1960. And as you can see, this train is crossing over in that crossover in the background there. So my goal was to just keep going east, go as far east as I could. And so my next stop was just east of Williams. It had stopped snowing, but still it was just so overcast. This is the control point at Maine, the train coming down the hill. The summit is at Flagstaff. I think it's 7,300 feet. So he's already a couple hundred feet down from there. And as you can see, he's hauling ass. The thing that makes this shot so perfect, though, is the Humphreys Peak right behind here, which of course you can't see because it's so damn overcast. So I ended up going east. It was rainy. It was overcast. It got dark. I got to Winslow pretty much at dark. And they have this park there where they standing on the corner in Winslow, Arizona to commemorate the Eagles song. I think this is supposed to be a statue of Jackson Brown, and this is a statue of Glenn Fry from the Eagles, if I'm not mistaken. Or maybe I have that backwards. Somebody I know, maybe Jerry Krug, I know Jerry will know what's going on here. The place you have to stay when you're in Winslow is the La Posada Hotel, which is the former Harvey House, right on the tracks, which of course I did not do because I stayed at Earl's because it was about half the price. And they were fun people too. Their motto, sleeping on the corner in Winslow, Arizona. So the next morning, got up, and this was the last hurrah of this trip. I saw trains. I wanted to get in position to get a couple of shots of some trains here at the West Darling control point in Winona. Don't forget Winona, as they say, as Bobby Troop said in his Route 66 song, don't forget Winona. Well, here's a train going to, let's see, from Barstow to Galesburg coming at us, and the train going away from us is going from Galesburg to Barstow, and they're meeting here. My drive from, I got to tell you a little bit my story here, from Winslow to here that morning. I left, it was still dark, and the car was covered with a icy crust of snow, and because it was a rental car from San Diego, no snow brush. Of course, why would you need a snow brush in San Diego? Again, because it's a rental car. That's why. So I had to wait 20 minutes to warm up the car, to melt the ice off the windshield so I could go. But as I was going west, the sun was just starting to come up behind me, and there was just this terrific alpenglow on Humphreys Peak that was just absolutely made my life worth living. Here's another shot from a slightly different location. A train coming down the hill. There's a little bit of a sag here at West Darling, I'm sorry. But I stayed, again, the morning here. It was 7 degrees, 7 degrees that morning. And, but you know, these are the money shots. And just some absolutely fantastic. That's Humphreys Peak there in the background. You can see with the snow blowing off the peak there. Just to see a faint outline of that at sunrise was just amazing. You know, intermodals again. Intermodals out the ass, people. They just ran trains left and right, and another one, and another one, and another one. It was just simply perfect morning. But then I got tired of that for a little bit, so I went a little bit further east. This is the East Darling control point. Again, they were doing some track work, so you know, trains were piling up at control points. So this guy was meeting another guy with Humphreys Peak in the background and some volcanic ash in the background as well. This is a North Bay train with all these intermodal trailers and some stacks heading west. I happened to catch up to him again, took a shot of him, one more shot from him over from the Route 66 bridge. He's still on the climb to Flagstaff, doesn't have much further to go, but this is pretty much the peak. Or maybe he might even be on the way down by now. I'm not sure. Elle would know for sure. And by then, you know what? you're starting to see a trend here. I was getting hungry, right? So, and I already blew all the best light of the day, and I was getting hungry, and I needed lunch. I didn't have any breakfast, and so I ended up going to the Sizzler, and I spent way more money than I needed to, but boy, did I have a good meal. And then from there, I went back down to Williams, or towards Williams, and I did get a pretty decent shot of Humphreys Peak at the main control point. And that was my last shot of my trip. And from there, I went down to Phoenix, and I caught my flight home, and that was it. And more pictures available at www.mikeyuhas.org. And we will stop the screen share here, and let's just see here. Am I still on the screen? And I've got a little shot glass. This is my Santa Fe shot glass. Cheers, everyone. All righty. All right. Anybody have any questions for me? Demute yourself and chime in.
Hey, Mike, did you fly your drone out there?
You know, I did not. I did not fly the drone. I had so much in my luggage. I wanted to take the drone. I figured, you know what? I'm going to retire in a few months, and I'll have it in the car the next time I go out. So,
awesome.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. Thanks, Jim. But that's that's a good question. Appreciate that.
What route did you take near Katie's, where the bridge is out? Did you stick along the tracks over there? When I was out there in January, we were in Essex, and some guy had, in a rental, like sedan, had come that whole way along the tracks, all the way from Katie's up to Essex. So if you guys do ever go out there, try to get four-wheel drive.
Right. And luckily my car has four-wheel drive that we're supposed to eventually going to do. The rental car did not have four-wheel drive, but I was able to get through the basically all the back roads there, the dirt, the sand at Katie's, and through that dry wash there it's pretty deep and stuff. I got pictures of them as well. I just didn't want to bore you to tears on this tonight, but it's just such a wonderful place out there. And I think one of the things I love so much about the territory out there is that it is just so remote, and you can be out there for hours without seeing another human. So that's cool. Thank you for Jeff for that question.
Yeah, and it's so remote. I was out there 2 Thanksgivings ago. There was a train derailment out of Katie's, and the train cars were just sitting there, and no sign of them going to be cleaned up. So yeah, it's just amazing. They just leave it.
Yeah. So anybody else?
Well, Mike, I just want to say bravo, way to go.
Thanks, Elron.
Another version of the book, I'm gonna have to look you up. You have some really great shots in there.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say that, El. I appreciate that. I'm so honored that you would join us from California to see our presentation, come to our meeting tonight, and Jeff Train Time and Ward Wells as well. You guys from California, it means the world to us that you came and joined us tonight. I think at our peak we had about 46 people on the list. Which is, I think, a record. We wouldn't have been able to do it with all of you in person. So, so I guess there is an upside to this nasty virus that's going around. There isn't an upside. If you've been affected, this is not fun. But I think, again, it is bringing us together. And so happy that you guys could be here with us tonight. Thank you. Anybody else have anything else to say?
Yeah, I want to jump in real quick for the California contingent. When I was out, I want to say about 3 years ago, taking 15, I didn't know you could I made the mistake of trying to go from Vegas down to the LA Basin on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And I did not realize that was like from the Wisconsin Dells to Chicago in the middle of nowhere. But anyway,
right. right?
That was crazy. I couldn't believe that. And we won't even talk about that produce thing that's in California in the middle of the state there, but we'll leave that one alone. There was a UP unit, if I remember correctly, there was a derailment somewhere out there, and there was a UP unit that was just still sort of kind of was a toaster of some sort, still sitting off to the side, just sitting in the sand. And I want to say it was after you crossed into California. It was on that side of the border, but I don't remember exactly where.
Nipton? Might have been Nipton, California. That's right on the edge near the solar plant.
Yeah, I remember we went past the solar facility. That thing is huge, by the way.
Yeah. As a matter,
and we're getting back more. We're heading to more west at that point. And it was, and I noticed it was just sort of kind of sitting there, and I didn't know if it was one of those things, if it was still sitting there. I thought I saw it in a magazine or one of the Facebook pages or something where they were talking about that.
The shot that I took of the Ivanpah generating station, that was actually taken from the grade crossing at Nipton.
Yeah, and if you ever get in that traffic, again, go out as Mike did down towards Sema, out the back in Kelso. It's magnificent back there.
Yeah, I was going to chime in too. Absolutely take SEMA Road. It'll take you down to Kelso, and it's so worth it. And from Kelso, you could either take Kelbaker Road to Amboy along the Needles sub, or you can just head back to the 15 if you want. But I would personally go Kelbaker to Amboy, because then you can follow 66 in the BNSF all the way into Barstow.
You know, Kelbaker Road is again another one of those roads that is just so remote that you can go for miles without seeing another human. You'd see a lot of turtles in season, but Kelbaker Road is just Americana, and as you say, the other end of it is Amboy. Ghost town.
Yeah, I'm hoping if I get back out that way again to do exactly what you're saying. We were sort of pushing it because we actually flew out to Vegas and then drove down to Pendleton. My son was in the service out there at the time.
U.S. Marine.
And so we were sort of crunched on time, but it was a great trip. And then we came down 15, obviously. And then one thing that was nice is we dropped down, I want to say 215. Because basically we backdoored it into Pendleton. That was a beautiful ride there because we weren't right by that not Orange County, but I can't remember what they call it, but that railway museum there. I didn't even realize we just
Paris.
Right by it.
Yeah, the Orange Empire.
Yes, the old Orange Empire Railway Museum, right, in Paris in Riverside County.
Yeah, Riverside. Okay. Yeah, I couldn't remember. Yeah, it was a nice ride up over basically the mountain there to get to the coast.
Beautiful.
It's a great idea.
Right.